Finally, we are going to work these backwards. You are going to be given the parabola, the graph, so you can see what it looks like. And your job is going to be to write the equation. Now, that might seem impossible when you first see that, but we're going to be able to do it. But you need 2 points, and those will always be given to you. So what you see here is an example. Find the equation of the quadratic function f. So that's going to be the name of our function. It's going to be stated as f of x equals, whose graph is shown below. So what you'll notice here is that you're given 2 points. You've got the whole graph, which has lots of points on it, but 2 of them are specifically pointed out to you. The first is the vertex. This is going to be essential. So our vertex is down here, the point 2, -4. And then you were also given this other random point on the line, right? It was a nice point using integers, using nice whole numbers, where our parabola intersected a grid line. So we're going to use those 2 points in order to find and build our equation. And what we're going to do is use vertex form. Remember vertex form? Because this specifically says our quadratic function is f, we're going to write it using function notation, f of x. Do you remember what vertex form looks like? Pause the video and see if you can just pull that out of your brain. What does vertex form look like? See if you can write it down. I'll keep going. F of x is equal to, again, this is vertex form, a times the quantity x minus h, quantity squared, plus k. You need to commit that to memory. That is vertex form. So you can also use y equals. In fact, I'll rewrite it. Sometimes that can help people. Y is equal to a times x minus h quantity squared plus k. Just remember, if your problem asks you to write the quadratic function f, you need to give your final answer in function notation. So what does this all mean? Do we remember what any of these letters mean, any of these variables? Well, hk is the vertex. And so when you are trying to build your quadratic equation, that's where you always want to start. Let's fill in the numbers from the vertex. That's the first thing you want to do. Y is equal to a times x minus h, x minus. So here is our h and here is our k. So we're going to write x minus 2 quantity squared. And then we're going to put plus k. Well, in this case, the k value is -4 or -4. So rather than put plus, we're actually going to change it to -4. So all we've done so far is we filled in our h and our k with 2 and -4. And that's what it looks like here. So this is going to be something we're going to come back to later. So I'm just going to point that out. We're going to come back to this later. So what you'll notice now is that we still have 3 variables remaining, the x and the y, and then we have this a. This is the thing, this a, that's going to be the thing that we're going to need to figure out. There's no way to just look at the graph and figure out what that a is going to be. Eventually, we're going to have a number there, and our x and our y will just be x and y. But we need to figure out what that a is. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to use the other point, this one right here, as the random x and y values that go together. X and y, that's just any point on the line. So we're going to use 4 and 4 as our x and our y in this equation. So watch as I substitute 4 for y equals a, and then in here, 4 for x. 4 minus 2, quantity squared, -4. What you should notice is that we've now substituted a value in for every single variable in our quadratic function vertex form, except for a. So anytime we have an equation, where there's just one variable, we can solve it and find the value of that variable. So here's where we actually have to start doing some calculations. Okay, so 4 is equal to A. I'm going to do this inside here. 4 minus 2 is 2. Quantity squared minus 4. Now I think what I'll do is add 4 to both sides to get 8 is equal to A times 2 squared. We can also square this 2. Notice that square does not connect to the A, it's just to the 2. 8 is equal to A times 4. And then we can divide both sides by 4. And so after all that work, we get 2 is equal to A. All of these calculations here led us to this point. Everything we did from here on down was just to try to get this value of A. A is equal to 2. What do we do now? Remember how I said I was saving this form for later? We're going to come back to it. This right here, y equals A times x minus 2 quantity squared minus 2 is nearly our final answer. We just needed to find a number for A. We now have that. So we are going to substitute 2 in right there. So let's write it. Y is equal to 2 times the quantity x minus 2 squared minus 4. And this is our final quadratic equation. Notice how we now have numbers everywhere we need a number. Our x and our y are x and y, but we have a 2, a minus 2, and a minus 4. There's our quadratic equation. So just to recap, we start with vertex form. We initially fill in our vertex, the h and k, from right here. Then we use the random point that was given to us as the x and the y, 4 and 4. We solve that equation for A, and then we substitute A back in to that vertex form. Let's do another one. So I suggest you pause the video and try this one for yourself. Notice how the vertex is at -3, -3, and the random point is at 6, -12. And I just realized that I made a mistake at the very end of this problem. Did you notice? I warned you of this at the beginning. Find the equation of the quadratic function f. Remember how I said you got to make sure you write it in function notation? Yeah. So what we should have really had instead of y equals is f of x equals. God, I caught that. So don't make that mistake yourself on the next one. Okay? So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can write this equation. I'll keep going. So we have our function notation, f of x equals, let's see, a vertex form, A, do you remember it? Times x minus h quantity squared plus k. What's the first thing we do? Start with the vertex. So f of x, I'm just going to leave it as f of x, is equal to A times x, okay, be careful here, minus h. This is h, and this is k. I'm subtracting h, and h is negative, so I'm going to have to change it to plus 3, x plus 3 quantity squared. K, I don't change. It's minus 3, so I'm going to write it as minus 3. Watch those signs. The next thing, and I'm going to hold on to this one. The next thing we do is use our random point, -6, -12. So this is our x, and this is our y. F of x is the same as y in this case, so we'll write -12 is equal to A times the quantity. Now we're going to substitute in -6 for x here. -6 plus 3 quantity squared minus 3. Now we calculate. Now the next step is just finding this value of A. So -12 is equal to A times -6 plus 3 is -3 squared minus 3. I'm going to add 3 to both sides to get -9 equals a times -3 quantity squared. -9 is equal to a times, let's square that -3 and get a +9. And then let's divide both sides by 9. Through all that work, we end up with a is equal to -1. So double check your work if you didn't get that. Make sure you got all your signs correct. Now we return to this form, and we're going to say f of x is equal to, all we need to do is take that -1 and stick it in for a. -1, or just negative, it's even better, just leave it as negative, x plus 3 quantity squared minus 3. And that is our equation. We built a quadratic equation having only the vertex and a random point on the line. And so that is how we do it. That is how we write those quadratic equations.